Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Professor Geek, and I recently caught up on my comic books that I subscribe to. I get behind now and then because of life, but I recently caught up on them, and I only read DC Comics and some other companies, but I don't give my money to Marvel Comics at the moment. That's a whole other video topic. But I caught up on my DC Rebirth, and I just wanted to check in and talk about how that movement is going for DC Comics. It's going quite well. It's not perfect, and there are some issues here and there, but overall I'm very much enjoying it. So I just wanted to kind of shout out some of the things they're doing particularly well, and then some of the things that's raising a couple eyebrows or whatever. But the titles that I follow are really the main tentpole kind of iconic titles, and then some around the periphery. But Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Action Comics, Detective Comics, Justice League, Flash, Titans, and then the Superman family I'm particularly interested in because he is my favorite superhero. So Superwoman, Supergirl. I haven't really gotten into the Chinese Superman yet. That was the story, from what I understand, a little bit I've looked at it, is just told in such isolation. Really, I think is DC trying to tap into the Chinese market, which would be huge for them if they could do that and then have their books able to be distributed in China. That would be quite a big deal. So he has crossed over into Superman and Action Comics occasionally, and he seems like a decent character when he does that. So that's all great. But what I love so much about Rebirth, as much as they said this is not a reboot, it's not a reboot, it is totally a reboot. Yeah, it's a process of a reboot. It's a little bit slower of a process in some aspects. Some aspects it was rather immediate, but it's definitely a reboot. I mean, the New 52 universe is obliterated at this point. Elements survive, and certain things that happen survive, but the whole nature of that universe is just gone. And the biggest thing that's really some of the characters from the get-go, like Wonder Woman, for example, her initial Rebirth comic book, she was no longer this Xena warrior princess, bloodthirsty, awful goddess of war, savage character they'd made her into. I mean, from the very first Rebirth comic book, she was back to her old iconic self, and knew that something was changed, knew that there was a lie. She was being made to believe something about herself that wasn't true, and she was trying to find the truth of her origin and stuff like that. So that was great. Certain characters and elements like that really did come back, in a snap like that. But the biggest compass for the DC universe is and has always been Superman. As much as Batman seems to be the most popular at times, and everybody thinks Batman's so cool because he's so bad, and whatever, Superman is the heart of the DC universe, and it's been said before that as Superman goes, so goes the DC universe. And that's borne out to be true in comics and film, television, or whatever, and it's just happened over and over again. Superman really is the heart. He's the compass. He's the secret DNA of the universe. So with Superman Rebirth, the New 52 Superman had died. And we got this, our original Superman that we liked from before the New 52 came back. And of course, he was already in a run by Dan Jurgens, Lois and Clark. And that was great. He'd been kind of shoved into this universe or whatever. With the Superman Reborn event, this completely wiped out the New 52 Superman from ever even having existed. Certain vestiges of things that he did would still be in Superman's timeline in general now, like Superman apparently supposedly wore that god-awful New 52 suit design at some point in his history, but all we have is our one true iconic Superman, and this is all that's ever existed in the DC universe at this point. So it really has just wiped out so much of the New 52 universe. The cool thing about Superman Reborn, it was done very, very well. There were some little holes here and there. I think they couldn't do but so much because they didn't want to alienate New 52 fans. But the cool thing about it was that it really gave us Superman back. It gave us Superman who was married to Lois Lane, and he had Jonathan Kent was his son, and they were living together with that, all of his iconic attributes, all of his values and everything in place and intact. The interesting thing about it, though, is that the repercussions in the DC universe should be much bigger than they have been so far. Now, maybe they're still just taking their time to fully explore them, but there are some unexplained aspects of this that really have got me scratching my head and wondering. So, I mean, little things. For example, Superwoman, Lana Lang, her title, it's been pretty decent, and she got these powers, though, from when the New 52 Superman died. And his powers dissipated from him. That's how the Chinese Superman, I forget his name, but that's how he got his powers, too. I think the government took some or whatever and replicated. I forgot exactly. I don't know. I don't follow that title. But that's these characters got their powers from the New 52 Superman dying. And now that never happened, because now we've just got our one Superman, they still haven't really fully explained how Lana Lang has powers. There was some mystery going on in her title where she was losing, or they were killing her at one point, and Steel's niece made her some armor, Insect Queen armor, which was awesome. A little throwback to the Silver Age. They gave her powers, but now that's not. Now she thinks they're coming from possibly a red kryptonite encounter she had. I don't know. It's interesting. They're kind of taking their time to tell that, but that's a mystery. And then some little things as well, like why does Supergirl still have the New 52S on her chest? That made sense when it was the New 52 universe, and our Superman that we had was coming from our iconic universe, kind of crossed over in there, because that New 52S was the S of that New 52 DC universe, so it made sense for Supergirl to still retain that. I love that they brought so many other elements of her costume back. They got rid of those awful, weird, bootstrappy knee things. I don't even know what was going on there with that design, but this is our iconic Supergirl in her skirt and everything. But the S is still New 52 Superman S, which isn't a big deal. I mean, it's certainly not the best S design ever. It's just kind of weird that she wouldn't have the same crest of L or whatever that Kal-El would. It's just bizarre and hasn't really been explained. But her character's back, absolutely. I mean, even more iconic than the television show. The television show's got her rather pushy now, and just sort of I don't know. She's just kind of, every show she's trying to assert herself and this and that. She's rather, I find her rather annoying in the television show. But the Supergirl in the comic books is not like that at all. So we've got Superman's great, Supergirl back to her original, Wonder Woman is back to... Now, one of the things about Wonder Woman, and I know that this is just some silly mandate from Warner Brothers on high or whatever, they insist on keeping her in the costume exactly like the movie costume, because they had a little bit of success with that movie, and of course they can't whatever, so I'm sure that's mandated. But it's just silly. It's not a horrible costume design in the comic books, because they keep it colorful as it should be, but there are little things that just don't make any sense with it. For example, that it's no longer even a tiara. It's almost like a nose guard. It's become just this one monochromatic metal thing she wears in her head. The cool thing is the comic book artists are slowly trying to transition her not only into a lot more colorful tones in her costume, but they've also put the red star back on her tiara to make it the princess crown it's supposed to be. And then this nonsense with the sword and shield has got to go. And thankfully it did go. And Rucka rarely had her use the sword and shield. Liam Sharp and Nicola Scott that were the artists on his book. It was so great. They rarely ever had her use a sword and shield. And it's not that she can't use one. As an Amazon, of course she's trained in using all kinds of weaponry, but that's not her go-to. That's not her main offensive weapon. She's all about truth, all about empathy, all about making evildoers see their error of their ways. She's not about just hacking and slashing first and taking questions later. That was the New 52 Wonder Woman, which they've solidly turned away from. So they do have her with her lasso. There was a great little story arc about losing her lasso but regaining it, and they've definitely relied on that mostly, and that's her main weapon, which is nice to see. Brian Hitch in the Justice League hasn't quite gotten that memo yet. He's got her showing up at every stupid fight with that sword and shield ready, and you think, what are you going to do with a sword and shield unless you're trying to kill and hack and slash? I mean, there's really no subduing. There's really no just battling or holding a line with a sword and shield. Sword and shield's pretty definitive. You're going to kill somebody with those. So it's just silly and stupid. I'm glad they took that away. At one point in the first few issues of the Justice League Rebirth, she still had the bolt of lightning, like Zeus's bolt of lightning. That's some nonsense from the New 52 held over, but luckily that was done away with as well. So good solid returns, some lingering questions. Batman is a little problematic. I think they've backed themselves into a corner by overly relying on that character. And I'm actually going to do a separate video talking about just the Batman problem as I see it. And I do love Batman. He's a very, very close second in my favorite superheroes list. Very close second to Superman. And but he's a great character. I think they've allowed far too much variation at one time in the character, and they've relied on him so much. I mean, he was really even though it was Flash's fault, the Flashpoint for the DC New 52, the whole universe was trying to be remade in Batman's image, and it just failed miserably because you can't remake all of the hope and wonder of this universe on this one character who was even a darker version of the character than it should have been. So in the Rebirth titles, he varies. It depends on the writers that you get. The Tom King Batman run started out very, very strong. It was great with the Gotham and Gotham Girl. Some of the things Batman was really, really back to an iconic, not just the Punisher, not just I can do it by myself, whatever. He was very much a caring hero, which was great. The Tom King run got a little weird for me, honestly, with the whole Bane stuff. It wasn't the concept of it. It was just every issue was just a little bizarre. It was surrealist. I mean, like Batman was beaten to within an inch of his life, like every single issue, really, and then rallying his strength at the end. It just got bizarre. The concept of the war between Joker and Riddler now is a very cool concept, but there's not a lot being done with it. He's kind of like he set up this stage where this amazing, cool war is happening. It could be a major event, and he's going in and just telling little pocket stories of little things, and you get the sense that the major scale of the conflict of the war is being, kind of done in the background. It's sort of a silly approach to that, but that run has its strengths and weaknesses. It's definitely got a good return to Batman's iconic core at the core of that run. I think Batman's strongest return, his strongest title in DC Rebirth, though, is Detective Comics. I cannot say enough great things about Detective Comics. I love the idea from the get-go when they said they were going to be using this title to tell the Batman family story. Basically, Batman assembles the team with Batwoman, and we've got Orphan, Cassandra, who was Batgirl or Black Bat and different things in the past. Spoiler was there for a while. She's still in the comic. Some things are going on with her. The real downfall of that comic was Tim Drake supposedly died. And of course, we know that following the Rebirth, it was actually Mr. Oz that had taken him away because of some reasons yet to be disclosed. But Batman has recently just learned that Tim Drake is alive, and Tim Drake really is. He's always Robin to me. Dick Grayson was a wonderful Robin, but he grows up to be Nightwing, and then Tim Drake is the Robin to me. Don't even get me started on Damian Wayne. Damian Wayne's one of those characters. I have no idea why he still exists. I have no concept why he's so popular, but he is. So I'm not pretending that he's that they're forcing him in there. Apparently he's there by public demand because he's very popular. But man, I have no understanding about his appeal whatsoever. He ruins every comic that he's in for me. But anyway, that's beside the point. So Detective Comics for Batman is Batman really delving into almost a fatherly aspect, which is really great. He calls his team his family quite often. He's given Clayface a chance to rehabilitate, and he's really teaching him and helping him get on the straighter path. Same thing with Azrael. A lot of great things in Detective Comics to love, and you really see aspects of Batman. He's still Batman. He doesn't become suddenly weaker or suddenly not as cool or anything. I mean, he's great. He's awesome as ever. But he's just not this incessant, silly loner, just constantly paranoid and constantly scheming, and he's actually somebody who cares. And Batman should care, and so that's a great title. So if you haven't picked up any of these titles, definitely recommend them, the ones I mentioned there. I will talk a little bit more about the Batman problem I see, because I think that's bigger than just a comic book issue. It's definitely a merchandising. In fact, that's the basis that I'll start out from. So I'll make that video as soon as I can. I also have I've been tagged in a movie challenge, a favorite movie challenge list. I've never done one of those, so I think I'll give that a try. But definitely encourage people to give these Rebirth titles a chance if you are wanting that strong, solid return to the iconic characters, because they're there. And even though we have this whole metal thing coming up, this event with Scott Snyder and Capullo on the art, they've billed it as, now here comes the darkness. Okay, we've had all the light, but now here comes the darkness. And that's really stupid billing. I mean, because Rebirth has been popular because people wanted the light back. So I think there's needlessly kind of pandering to a crowd that isn't even really there, buying the comics, wanting it to be darker and everything like that. But I think that's just a manner of, I think that's just some rhetoric they're using to promote it. Yes, some darkness is coming in terms of a challenge, and that needs to happen. We need to, we've had this wonderful light return to our heroes. They need to be challenged by some darkness to prove how light they are. Not to change them, not to tear them down, not to deconstruct them, but to prove how light they are. And some cool things are being done with just the prequel issues that came out about that. I'm glad that Hawkman is involved. And the whole concept of metal is kind of neat, and the way they're putting this dark matter of the universe and involving that, and it has something to do with the nth metal as well. So really cool concept. The big mistake is having it center solely around Batman, as though Batman were the heart of the DC universe. He's not. Superman is. Superman Reborn, even though I love the way it was handled in the Superman and Action Comics titles, should have been much bigger across the DC universe. But it wasn't. Hopefully the repercussion will be felt later, like I said. But so the metal thing's got some good things going for it, but really just shows how myopic they are about Batman, and that's a misunderstanding of their universe. So hopefully that won't go awry. So that's good. That's all I've got right now. Do check out these titles. I'll have some links below in the comments to some of the titles, some of the graphic novels, even if you've missed some issues. And give some of them a chance, even if, say, perhaps you were reading Wonder Woman's been pretty solid. Let's say perhaps Justice League, for example. Justice League was iffy at times. It seemed like Brian Hitchens the art was amazing, but the writing was getting a little stagnant. It seemed like the same story was being told over and over, and each issue was this universe-altering events that they wrapped up quickly by the end of the issue, and it was like, well, where do you go from there? How are you going to do an event after this? But I understand Brian Hitch is leaving that title, at least I think altogether, but it was the writing that was an issue. His art was wonderful. So even if some of the titles like that have lagged a little bit, Superwoman got kind of silly there for a while. But it's solid. It came back. So even if they trip a little bit, they do come back, and the main focus, that compass of going back to their iconic natures of the characters, is still there. So I'll do check-ins like this occasionally, because there are some changes supposed to come here and there on the characters, and I'll mention them as they come up and do some more analysis of them in light, holding them up to the iconic portrayals and stuff like that. So yeah, more of that to come, and a Batman video to come, and a movie tag video to come. So get them done as I can. Thanks for watching, though. Thanks for sticking with the channel. Please do share or go back in the backlog. I've got a lot of scripted analyses. I'll get back to doing some of those as well. Lots of things to see. And until next time, keep enjoying and digging deeper into the superhero stories you love.